Hey y'all, I'm James Wright and welcome to my shop. Today we are making this clock which has a lot of fun things to it, but we're going to be doing it with a special guest, my daughter. So let's dive in. Working with kids in the shop can be a lot of fun. It can also be frustrating from time to time, but if you enjoy and they enjoy, then it's going to be a lot more fun. One of the best ways to let them enjoy is to give them projects that are at their speed. And this clock kit is a great one for where Melody is. She's done a few other projects, and if you want to see that, I have a whole pile of other videos that Melody has worked on. But with this one, it's actually really good because it has a few advanced things with coping saws and different methodologies. There's a lot of things that can go into this small project. So here we're actually going to be cutting all of the boards to length. There's going to be a top board, a bottom board, and then the middle board that the clocks go into. And then on each of those, they're actually split into two boards. There's going to be a backing board that's out of oak and a front board that's out of poplar. We're doing it this way because the poplar is a lot easier for Melody to work with. And so all of the components will be connecting into the poplar, and the oak will just be there for structure, strength, and appearance. We're going to start by laying everything out. The top and bottom boards are going to have two holes drilled in them, and then they're going to have a rectangle for the vertical board to go into. So we need to lay out and mark where all those are going to intersect. And if you want to see this, clockkits.com actually has patterns and plans. I modified them slightly for this, but all of the plans have the measurements you need and all of the layout marks on that. Makes it very easy, and you can just hand it to the kids and go. Demonstrate first, let her go at it and kind of feel it out, and then let her learn by doing. Get that muscle memory in. It's the best way to learn. Now, I got to break in here for a moment. This clock kit came from clockkits.com, and they actually gave this one to my daughter so that she could make it. And yes, my daughter will have a video on her channel as well. But if you would like one of these, they're actually offering a 10% off code. There's a link to it down in the description down below. And so if you want to buy anything on their website, from clock kits to plans and other things like that, go ahead and take a look at that. Let's get back to building this. It's very important that the top plate and bottom plate be the exact same. And so we're going to clamp those two together and then drill them out. So all the marks that we've laid, now we can bore the holes for the two cylinders to go into and the rectangle in the middle for the vertical to go into. And some of this is really, really hard for her because they're bigger holes. It takes some more force. And so it's one of those things you have to grow into. So some of it I'll do, and some of it I give it to her and make her learn. Because the best way to learn is to do. But it's always good to demonstrate first so they can get an idea about what's going on. For the rectangular hole, we're going to drill a bunch of holes through, and then we can come back through and chisel all those out and get them nice and neat. For a good clean hole, drill from one side until the hole just pops through, and then use that to drill back from the other side so you get a good clean entry and exit wound. For the rectangular hole, we have all of that laid out and marked, so we need to chisel down from one side halfway and then turn around and chisel from the other side halfway. And so I'm actually holding this in place and letting her tap it, because it's a bit of a skill to learn both. If you learn the mallet first, and then you can learn the chisel. And so take it step by step and do part of the work for her, and then let her do the other half until she gets that down, and then give her the next step. And so by the end, she can be chiseling and malleting at the same time. You kind of think that it's one skill, but if you break it up into easier chunks, it makes it easier for them, and they tend to learn it a little bit better. Not to mention, they enjoy it a little bit better. So we're going into our lines and marking all that out and laying all those spots out. Now we're going to start working on the vertical. And for this, we're actually going to create two rectangular holes that go all the way through this that the two clock faces will sit into. And these have to recess into it a little ways. If you were following the original plans, you'd actually take a router and route out a recess for the clock to fit into. But because we're making this out of two pieces, it's far easier. We can just bore all the way through. And we're going to bore 4 holes in each of the rectangles so that they end up creating a square. And then we can play connect the dots. And this is something that is, it's a good chance to learn something new, in that you don't have to always follow the plans exactly. You can try different methods to learn different skills. So here we're doing coping saw work, and this is actually a bit difficult for her at her age. This is something that is a lot of skill. And so I'm going to cut out one of the holes and demonstrate and try and show her proper technique whenever possible. And sometimes it's not so proper, but you know, that's the way things are. And I'll cut out one and let her do it, and let her then take the second one. And so we can start it in one hole, and then she can learn. You know, rocking like this, it's not the best, but it does work. And then eventually it starts to go a little more vertical, and following the line and being able to anticipate where it's going and turning the saw, These are great skills to learn. Is it going to be perfect? No. Is it going to work? Yes. And she's going to have a lot of fun, and she's going to learn a lot of the skills. Now the corners need to be squared up a bit, so we'll bring a chisel in. And in this, they need to be a little more accurate, so I'm going to hold it in place and then let her tap it down in. Then you can see how the two faces then pop down into place, and this whole thing goes together. Yay! So there's our faces that then go into the vertical pieces. Now we can start doing all of the assembly and test work. We want to make sure that the vertical oak piece will then fit into there. Make sure that our tubes fit into there. Make sure all of our spacing is correct. We made this a little bit taller than it needs to be so that the glass tubes aren't being crushed. We're actually going to put some foam spacers in the bottom, and the kit actually comes with those foam spacers included. So now we need to glue the pieces together. And so we're going to spread glue onto the poplar piece and then use a little bit of CA to hold it in place. It's a quick trip for something like this that isn't really, there's nothing really structural to this, and the glue will bond perfectly fine. We can put the CA on there, and that will hold it in place until everything goes in. And it's a chance that they get a little bit more instant gratification because the CA will hold it in place and we can continue working. And then the wood glue will do the permanent bonding. You can see how this is starting to come together. Now we need to drill out a tiny hole in the bottom of the oak. And for that, we actually need to have the center point. So now that we have the poplar on there, we can use the auger to put the center point. And now we can put in a smaller hole. And this is a 1/2-inch hole that will hold a little foam disc that comes with the kit. That foam disc will then protect the glass piece so that it doesn't crush. It gives it a little bit of movement in there. So again, it's too much for her, and she doesn't have enough strength to hold both ends, so it's actually easier for me to hold one end and just let her crank it. Here you can see the little foam pieces that will then go in and fill the holes. And these then give just a soft spot that the tips of the glass cylinders will rest on those. Once that's in place, then we can start doing all of the little details and making sure everything works. We want to make sure that this actually fits in, and we need to make any adjustments. Just be careful not to break the glass. And they're actually pretty strong. She dropped one on the floor, and it didn't break, which I was very impressed with. Otherwise, it would have been disastrous. But this all came together, and we're very happy with how it fits. So we're going to do all of the final details. So we're going to shoot up the ends, clean them all up, make sure that all of our spacings are correct, and we're going to start adding some chamfers. And at this point is where you really want to detail things in and just kind of add those little extra things. If you want to do some carving in here, it's a good chance to learn on that. I have this block plane from Bridge City Tools that is perfect for Melody because it's small enough that she holds on to. She doesn't like the block plane as she finds it to be a bit too big. But the number one is way too small for her. And so this is kind of one of those in between. So I can show her one and she can do the other, and we kind of play it side by side. We're going to chamfer all the corners down. With the end grain, you want to learn to skew the blade so that you're actually shearing it off rather than planing it off. And then even these glued on pieces, we can easily chamfer those in. Once this has all been chamfered, we can do the final checks, make sure everything is exactly where we want. The vertical, we want to chamfer that in. And so I'm going to put it in place and mark where it intersects, and then that will allow me to chamfer with a spoke shave. Unfortunately, we didn't get a video clip of chamfering the side. But that allows you to do a plunge chamfer, so it's not chamfered where it goes into the block, but only where it's exposed. So we're going to apply in a bit of glue on that, a little bit of CA because we're in a rush and want to get this done. And then we can put the vertical into place, and then put the glass tubes into place, and then lock it all down. And at this point, you start to get excited and making sure everything comes together. Yes, use the nature's mallet that nature gave you. And we can clamp it all down because we knew our measurements. The vertical piece needs to go all the way to the oak on both sides through the poplar. And we can let it sit on that for 30, 40 seconds or so until the CA holds it in place. Unlock it, and we can start cleaning up some of the glue. There are many different tricks for any little squeeze out. Putting a rag on there, you want to be careful you don't smear it out, but you can use a straw to clean out any glue that squeezes out on there. And then for this, of course, it is our channel, so we're just going to finish it with some boiled linseed oil and paste wax. And this homemade boiled linseed oil is fantastic for the kids because they actually get to smear it on with their hands and have a bit of fun with it. There's a natural feel to it. Here you can see the glue squeezing out, and we're going to have to clean that up before the oil gets to it. It was one of those things that, oops, it squeezed out more while we're waiting because we were in a rush to get this done, so we didn't actually wait for the glue to set. We just have the CA on there. But with that, the kit also comes with 4 little feet that go on the bottom, and the kit is basically done. And she now gets to play with the meteorology on this because it has the thermometer and the barometer and the clock on there, and even a hydrometer. So Melody can actually start to learn about the weather and what all's going on. How does humidity affect the weather? How does the air pressure affect it? What's the temperature? And it's kind of fun for her to play with and experiment and see what's going to happen. A great kit for a kid to learn on, and just a lot of fun to have in the shop all around. Yes, this was fun. So there you have it, a clock kit. And this was actually a really fun one to do with Melody because it was a very basic project and you could change a few things. You can actually get this whole kit and everything on clockkits.com. There's a link to this kit down below, as well as a 10% off code. They sent this kit to me and Melody to put together, and I think it was a lot of fun. So if you'd like to see one like this, go ahead and take a look at that. Also, if you want to see Melody's video, there's a link to that down below. She actually does the whole talk through on her channel about how she builds it. So if you're ever wanting to get kids into woodworking, this would be a phenomenal project. Have them go watch it Melody's channel and kind of see it from a kid's point of view. It is a lot of fun to see woodworking come to life in a young eye. So I hope you like this video. If you have any questions, thoughts, ideas, let me know that in the comments down below. I'd love to read through those. That does mean a lot. Also, I do want to say thank you to everyone who hits that like, comment, share, and subscribe. I know I say it every week, but honestly, that really helps out the channel, so thank you. If you want to help keep this channel going without spending any money, it's a really easy way to do it. And for those of you who want to go a step further, everyone scrolling over here on the side, they are patrons on Patreon. Thank you for that. If you ever want to find out more about that, there's a link to that down below, or you can click the little join button and become a member here on YouTube. So thank you to everyone who is literally keeping the lights on, and I think that'll do it for now. Until next time, have a wonderful day. So yeah, we recorded the intro and outro with Melody here in the shop, but the file got corrupted, and Melody went off to camp, and the video had to go live, so you only get to see me. So if you want to see Melody's, you got to go over to her channel. Links to that down below. I guess that means without Melody, this video kind of ends off key.